Hi Hasmukh, how are you?
Yeah, hi Rakesh, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. So first of all, many congratulations to you, right? So I have just received your email and I was so happy to see that you have been placed in many companies and you have got multiple offers as well, right? And
Yeah,
thank you so
thank
much to and thank you once again, you are coming on this channel for sharing your success story with us. So I would like to thank you from our channel's team behalf and from the entire community behalf as well.
thank you, Rajesh. That means a lot.
Right. So, can you tell in which all companies you have got the offers and can you share the interview questions also
Yeah,
with us? Yeah.
yeah, sure. Currently I'm holding five offers. So starting with Quality Kiosk Technologies, it is a Mumbai-based company,
Mm,
and after that I received multiple offers from Publicis Sapient, Capgemini, and then Mindtree, and then Cinecom. So these five companies I had got the offer from, and like it was a long journey till date, and it's been in the beginning it has been a little tough because I'm currently working in Infosys, and Infosys has a 90 days of notice period. So for me that was the major issue, and getting my first company was the toughest task for me. So that was the thing. And right after that, I got my first company placed in Quality Care Technologies. And after that, I had put my papers in Infosys. And even after that, like for the 1 month, I didn't receive any offers. But then after that, from the second month onwards, I started receiving calls, and I used to give the interviews and all those stuff. So I have given around 7 to 8 or 8 to 9 interviews, and out of those, I got selected in five companies. So I'll just share my screen and
yeah, you can share your screen. You can tell us what were the different questions that were asked, right?
yeah,
So
sure.
you were telling you had a 3 months of notice period. So initially in the first 30 days, you were not getting any calls, even if you're updating profile on Naukri also.
Yeah, I was not getting any calls. So I started preparation in November, and I was starting to applying for jobs in Naukri.com since November itself. But it took around 2 to 2.5 months for me to get my first offer.
Okay, okay, okay. Maybe because in market people are looking for immediate joiners these days.
Yes,
So
yes,
that's
yes,
why
that was the thing.
3 months of
So
notice
most
period
of
is
the
really a problem. Yeah.
yeah,
Please go
most
ahead.
of the companies these days look for immediate joiners only. They prefer people who join less than 30 days.
Correct. Yeah. So you can share your screen.
Yeah, sure. So would I
Yes.
start with the interview questions or the resume that I had prepared as per my
Yeah.
uh,
You can start with the interview questions first, and then you can show us your CV as well,
okay,
how you have prepared.
sure. So I had given one interview for the Johnson Control International, and the thing is was I was not selected for this company, maybe because of in the initial stages I was not that much prepared, and I was not that much confident. So maybe that might be reason that I didn't get through this company. But yeah, so in this company there were a different set of questions. So they asked many questions, around 20 to 25 questions.
Mm-hmm.
So most of it was in the beginning, like most companies ask us the introduction and what framework we have worked on in the automation testing. So those are the basic questions. And then they asked for the collection data type. And after that, like they also asked basic Selenium questions like this timeout exception, web driver exception. So based on the answers we give, like they just pick point those sections and then keep on digging deeper. So while explaining out exceptions, they asked different kinds of exceptions, timeout exception, WebDriver, stale element exception, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And they also asked the question to me. They asked what is the difference between driver.exit and driver.quit. So I was aware of driver.quit and driver.close, but I was not aware of what is driver.exit. So I
Okay.
just said them that I'm not sure what is driver.exit, but I know that driver.quit is used to close the browser itself, all the windows of the particular browser.
Mhm.
And that's how I answered this question. And then I also searched after my interview, like what is this driver.exit,
Mhm.
but I was unable to find anything. So that's how I came to know that it was
Mhm.
a trick question. Then they asked the difference between implicit weight, explicit weight, all those stuff. And then they also asked few questions on uh, scenario-based questions. So here they say that you have found an element while creating a test script, but while execution, the driver is not able to find that element. So what could be the reason? So I thought for a moment, and then I figured out that it may be due to frames. So in Selenium, like when accessing a particular web page, we come across situations where we need to handle frames, and that particular web element that we used to find may be hidden behind those frames. So that's the answer that I gave them, and then they started asking questions on frames, like how to handle frames and how will you find the index of frame. And then they also asked questions about the SSL certificate and how will you handle them.
Mhm.
So
Right.
for that, like I answered that we can use the decide capabilities in Selenium to configure the web browser and access the SSL certificate, handle those things. And there were also a few questions on the font style, font color of the particular web elements.
Mhm.
Although like I was not sure, but I had a basic idea that it is somewhere related to the CSS selector. So based on that, I answered that we can find the CSS selector, and then based on that, we can access the particular attributes
Mhm.
and then get the font style, font color, all those things. Then there were questions on priority and severity, and then examples of high priority, low severity, and vice versa.
Right. Right.
And there were few questions on core Java as well. So they
Correct.
asked what is serialization and deserialization, and
Mhm.
what is memory leakage in Java. And I was not able to answer these questions
Mhm.
since I didn't learn about core Java in very much detail.
Mhm.
And there were questions on OOPS concepts as well, and I was pretty much clear on OOPS concept, so I answered those questions on abstraction and interface and the pillars of OOPS concept, all
Okay.
those things.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and then the last two questions they asked was the challenges faced in your framework and like what types of testing you have done in your career. So
Mhm.
I also answered those questions, but all in all, like I was not selected for JCI.
Mhm.
And yeah,
Okay. Okay. No
so
issues. Yeah. But this was a good learning
I
experience. At least you came to know.
yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely. It was a good experience.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And I also remember an occasion.
Hmm.
So as I said in the first month, I didn't receive any calls after getting my first offer. So I kept on trying. I kept on saying yes for all the opportunities that I received.
Mhm.
And on this one occasion, so I received calls back to back for interviews. And I still remember it was a Saturday, and I had three interviews on the same day.
Oh.
So yeah, it was like, okay, now what should I do? But I just went on with flow, and I still remember like my first interview was at 11 o'clock, and then second was at 12 o'clock, and then third interview was at 2 o'clock. So I
Okay.
had to give these interviews back to back,
Back
and
to
I
back.
didn't have any option because I had just one offer in hand,
Mhm.
and I needed to at least score two to three offers so that I can pick the best one out.
Right. Right.
So I just said yes for all those interviews and gave three interviews. So on that day, the first interview was from Wipro
Mhm.
and followed by Capgemini and Volkswagen.
Mhm.
So in Wipro, the questions were quite basic. So they asked me on OOPS concept and overloading, overriding, all those concepts from Java. And I still remember they asked me to write a program to
Mm-hmm.
find the greatest of two numbers without using if statement.
Oh.
And at that moment, I was like very much surprised. Like, what is this? How should I answer this?
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, like I didn't figure it out that we can use the ternary operator for this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a basic question, as we know, that we can use the ternary operator, but I was not able to recollect at that moment.
Right.
So
Right.
I just asked the interview that I'm not sure how we can do this. Then she
Mm-hmm.
gave me the hint of ternary operator, and then I remembered. But even then, I guess it was my bad luck that I wrote the wrong syntax for the code.
No issues. No issues. That's fine.
Yeah.
Depends.
And apart from that, I pretty much answered all the other questions. But even in Wipro, I was not selected.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. And that's maybe because of the basic coding question. But otherwise, I had answered all the other Java related questions and Selenium questions.
Mm-hmm.
And they had basic questions like the different weights in Selenium, and then the difference between absolute and relative XPath.
Okay.
And they told me to write a code to initiate Chrome browser and then launch a particular URL and then close it. So I
Mm-hmm.
was able to write the code for that. And they asked me the difference between what is WebDriver and Chrome driver. So I answered that WebDriver is an interface and Chrome driver is a class. And we
Mm-hmm.
cannot create the object of WebDriver. That is why we are using the object of Chrome driver class. So that is why we write the statement like this. And then there were questions on difference between driver.quit and driver.close as well. And then they asked for the method overloading in WebDriver, but I was not able to answer this particular question that uh, for what purpose we'll be using method overloading in WebDriver. And then they asked me questions on API testing as well, but like I don't have much experience in API testing, around 1.5 months. So they didn't ask much about it, but just the basic like what is API testing and what are the basic status codes. And also they asked some questions on manual testing and the different techniques that we use to build the test cases. What are the sprint ceremonies that I have participated in? So those types of questions were also that related to agile. And there was also a scenario-based question, and they asked that suppose you're working in a project and the management wants you to test in the dev environment itself, and they cannot provide the test environment as of now. So what will be your reaction? They asked such a question. So I was like, if they are not willing to provide the test environment, then we will confirm it with our Scrum Master and the project manager, and then we'll continue the testing in dev environment itself.
Correct.
And
Correct.
upon finishing that, so
Mm-hmm.
if we still have time and we are able to get the test environment ready by that time,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we can perform another round of testing in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I answered the question in such a way.
Absolutely.
And yeah, then they asked the difference between smoke and sanity and severity priority again. They also asked what is like traceability matrix. So I have a like 1 to 2 years of experience in manual testing, and we used the traceability matrix over there. So I was able to answer the question for that also. But apart from answering all the questions, because of the one basic coding question, like I think because of that reason, I was not selected for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I had interview for Capgemini,
Mm-hmm.
and in that, yeah, it was a good interview in Capgemini and Volkswagen.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked me to explain the framework in that I worked on, and then they asked how will I automate a scenario where I have to select the gender as male from a drop down. So
Mm-hmm.
as you know, we can use the select class for the selecting the drop down options. So
Mm-hmm.
I said in that way. And then they asked the difference between assert and verify. And they also asked like how will you validate alert box. So I pretty much answered all the questions in Capgemini. I was quite confident with that. And they asked how will you handle network latency. So for this, I thought for a moment and I was quite confused. But then I remembered that network latency basically means like loading the page, and for loading the page within specified time, I think we can use the weights in Selenium, implicit weight and explicit weight. So I answered that using the weights, and uh, I think the interviewer was expecting that same answer only.
Mhm.
Then they asked, how will you connect a database? But I didn't answer this question because I didn't have any experience in working with database. So I just said that I didn't work on database connections, and so I don't know what stands for this. So then they carried out the questions, and they asked the difference between array list and hash map, and then files, how to access files, and all those things. Then they also asked like how you handle window-based applications. So I said that we can use Auto IT for that, and they started how will you use Auto IT? What is the advantage of it,
Mhm.
and what is the advantage of it over send keys?
Mhm.
So I just said that Auto IT, with using Auto IT, like we can automate all the Windows-based applications. Using send keys, we can only send a particular text in the particular web element, but using auto IT, like we can carry out other actions in the particular web-based application also.
Mhm.
And they also asked like version controlling. So I said we used Git, and then they asked basic Git commands as well.
Mhm.
And they also asked questions on Jenkins, but we were not using any pipeline or any job scheduling, so I was not able to answer questions related to Jenkins.
Okay.
And then they shifted on to like how will you execute your automation suite.
Mhm.
So I just said that we use the command line interface only. So using that we run the automation suite.
Oh.
And they were they were keen on asking questions to BDD Cucumber. So
Mhm.
they just asked a basic question like how will you uh, write a scenario for the BDD Cucumber for clicking on the Google search button.
Mhm.
So I had a basic knowledge on BDD Cucumber, and I had done some crash courses, so I have the basic knowledge for it. And I just explained them that in a feature file, we'll have a scenario where we can enter the given, when, then, and all
Mhm.
those keywords using the Gherkin language, and we can write the particular scenario for that.
Right.
And we can configure the step definitions and write the Selenium code into that.
Mhm.
In Capgemini, there was only one technical round, after which I got a call from the HR saying that you have been selected for Capgemini.
Okay.
And after that, it was like, although we have been selected for Capgemini, but we have to give few more interviews for the client now. So I had another project tutorial interview, and then another client level interview also
Mhm.
in Capgemini, and I had basically cleared those rounds and got my offer letter from
Mhm.
Capgemini.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Very nice. So, what did they
Uh,
ask in the client interview? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to. Yeah. Please.
yeah,
Please
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So in client interview, like they asked somewhat detailed level questions. Like I have written this other questions,
Okay.
although like I knew that these questions were asked to me, but I
Mhm.
didn't remember like in which interview they were asked. So I just noted it down.
Okay. Okay.
So there
Good.
were few questions on the singleton class.
Mhm.
So up until that point, I never heard of singleton class. So I didn't answer that question. But after the interview, I always note down the questions, and I always look for every question
Mhm.
and the respective answer for those.
Mhm.
And yeah, so singleton class is like basically that we have only one object for that particular class. So that way we can create a singleton class. And then there are a few questions on what are the data types of variables where the windows are stored.
Mhm.
So I was not quite sure, but then I looked up and I got to know that they are stored in set of string.
Correct. Correct.
And there are a few questions on hash map and hash table. and some questions were there on constructors. So I knew like why basically constructors are used, but never learned in detail what more can be done with constructors. So I faced questions like can constructor be overloaded and can constructor be overwritten? So only after receiving those questions, like after the interview, I searched those questions and got to know. And this practice helped me a lot actually.
Hmm.
So whenever I used to note out these questions and I used to like learn, it used to help me a lot and prepare me better for the next set of interviews.
Correct, correct. Yeah, this is actually good habit. Once you jot down the questions, you'll also able to refer them in the future. Okay, these were the questions asked. So, am I good with this much of preparation, or do I need to prepare more? Like those sort of things.
Yeah. So I have worked on test ng, so they also asked questions related to test ng, like how will you run failed test cases and can a data provider have 10 columns, all
Hmm.
those type of questions, and uh, finding the index of frame in Selenium. Like uh, they sometimes ask like how to find index of a frame. So
Hmm.
although I know that index can be just stored in, we can store all the frames in a list and then calculate the index using that. But I was not sure, so I didn't answer this question also.
Okay.
And then yeah, so I had given another interview for Volkswagen,
Hmm.
and then they asked me, they started with assertions itself, like what are the different types of assertions and what are the different annotations that you have encountered in TestNG, and which type of framework do you work in automation? How will you find, what's the difference between find element and find elements? And
Okay.
then they also asked like how to handle frames, windows, all those things.
Hmm.
And uh, they also ask like how to select multiple values from a drop down.
Hmm.
So as you know, like we can use the select class, and using the select class itself, like we can select the multiple values from the drop down.
Right. Right.
So yeah, and Volkswagen, I faced this question also, like how to check broken links on a web page.
Page. Yeah.
So for this, I had only one thing in my mind that we can check for broken links. Like we can store all the links in
Hmm.
a list, and then maybe we can iterate over it and click on the particular link and then check it. But that was a long approach. And then the interviewer asked me, "Do you know anything about API testing?" So although like I don't have much experience in that, but I it stuck in my mind that using APIs we can visit those links and get the status code of it.
Hmm.
So 200 is the status code of OK, which means the website URL is working.
Yes.
So in that way, like I answered them that we can check all the broken links using APIs
Hmm.
and get the status code. And there were another question was how to enter text using sorry without using the send keys.
Hmm.
So for that, I said that we can use the JavaScript executor and then
Hmm.
get that particular element and then enter the value into it. And like they asked how will you take screenshot, and they also asked like to write the syntax for taking the screenshot.
Hmm.
So I was able to write that, and they also like asked how will you access the data from Excel and write the code for that, write the syntax for accessing the particular cell value from Excel. So I was able to answer that as well.
Okay.
And in Volkswagen, they also asked like how to run the failed test cases. So
Hmm.
earlier, I was not able to answer that in previous interviews, but since I noted it down and since I learned about it, so I was able to answer that. In TestNG, there's a output folder where all the failed test cases are stored. So we can just rerun that particular XML and run the failed test cases. So in that way, I answered this question. And Then they asked how will you set the priority of a test case. So as you know, like we can set the priorities using priorities keyword
Mm-hmm.
in SNG. And then there are questions on hooks concept and basic API testing in Volkswagen. So yeah, like I cleared Volkswagen also all the 3 rounds. There were around 3 rounds, so I
Mm-hmm.
had cleared that. And like recently last week, they called me back for confirming that they will have to they will have to do the final round again once more time.
Mm-hmm.
But until then, like I had already received 4 to 5 offers, so I just said that I have just received these many offers, and I'll be joining one of them.
Right.
So okay, that's no point, right? If we are
Mm-hmm.
already having offers and we are taking someone else's seat, then that's not.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. This is fine. That at least you were, you were honest to them. So now you have decided on something. So that is fine.
Yeah, yeah, and that was also yeah. I had given one interview for Cinecom, so yeah. So Cinecom was quite a good interview,
Mm-hmm.
and actually I was not willing to give the interview for Cinecom because I already had the offers,
Mm-hmm.
but they instead insisted that at least give the interview and maybe then we can decide whether you want to join or not.
Okay.
So so in that case, like I said them okay, and I gave the interview,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't ask much questions, but yeah, so they asked questions on constructors and then page object model
Mm-hmm.
and overloading, overriding, like basic questions on OOPS concepts,
Mm-hmm.
all those things. And
Right.
then in Selenium, they asked about the exceptions
Mm-hmm.
and the final keyword and the coding question also they were asking for
Mm-hmm.
the writing a Java program to print the character occurrence in a string.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was able to write the code as well. So I would like to thank you actually because after my first offer from Quality Kiosk, we had a mock interview, and you advised me to focus more on the coding part. So
Mm-hmm.
right from there, I started focusing more on coding part, and all the interviews that I had given, like I was able to crack the code for most of them.
Okay.
So I wanted to thank you for that
Mm.
because of that only I think I was able to get 5 offers from various
No, actually,
companies.
yeah, actually, thanks to you, and it is all because of your hard work and effort. But I generally saw the pattern of the questions. Generally, if you are looking for the automation testing position, so they have asked, the Java interview questions in almost Java-based coding questions in almost all those interviews.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So basically, these are the interview questions
Hmm.
that I had received,
Right.
and
Okay. This looks good. Now, is it possible to share the CV as well? If we can
yeah,
have
sure.
you. Yeah. 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 So your CV looks good. Yeah. Can you walk us through the CV? Yeah. So work experience you have
Yeah,
added. Yeah.
yeah. So I am currently like working in Infosys. So right from here, since January 2018, I
Mm,
was working in Infosys,
mm,
and I started as a fresher only.
mm.
So they had given me the role of operations executive,
Okay.
and I had my training done in Mysore, and I was I was yeah, I got my location as Pune, and I started my career in the testing domain. So initially, I was working manual testing for around 1 year from 2018 to 2019,
Mhm.
and we used the waterfall methodology, and we were in a healthcare domain. So it was basically like working with claims and all those things in the healthcare domain. And in the first year, like I used to do the requirement analysis. I used to develop the test scripts and test cases, and we used to attach the results in the RQM. So RQM is like we used RQM for all the test management and related activities. And As I mentioned, like we use the traceability matrix for the like verifying that we have covered all the scenarios or not, and we used to do testing in the mainframe system. So uh, we have written, I have written that I carried out the manual test case execution on the mainframe system,
Mhm.
and it used to deal with a lot of tables. So I had also performed database testing using SQL in mainframe tables. We used to compare different set of tables and identify whether the values are getting stored in the tables correctly or not, and validate those. And I also created automation scripts in RFT using Java. We
Mm.
had uh, we had a regression suite, and we used to like build the test cases for that in the RFT, and we used Java programming language for that. And after that, I switched on to an internal team. It was
Mhm.
again in the healthcare domain only, but we used the agile methodology over there.
Okay.
And for that, we used to create the test cases, test scripts, and we used agile central rally for
Mm.
that. And we were doing functional testing, and it was basically web-based application. So we used to do system testing and regression testing over there. And we also had the opportunity to work on automation using Selenium and Java, and we were using a data-driven framework.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we are using the Excel files and like integrating the data sets using that.
Mhm.
And I used TestNG for the test case management, and like using the automation suite, we used to carry out automation testing for regression. And yeah, so during that phase, I also created many documents. So I mentioned that in my resume as well. And after that, currently, like I'm working as a test engineer and in the financial domain, and we have a web application, and we are using Azure DevOps for the raising all the bugs and for all the sprint related activities. And I also performed automation using Selenium, Java, and TestNG. And I created this framework from scratch. So I had I had undergone various crash courses and YouTube tutorials to learn how to like create a framework from scratch.
Okay.
And I was we had 2 to 3 people in the testing team, and I was just leading them and handled most of the QA responsibilities. So
Mhm.
yeah, still currently I'm working in the same project, and my notice period is about to end in
Right.
another week. So
Right.
just 1 more week is left.
Correct. Can you come to the second page, which all details you have mentioned over there?
Yeah. So it basically highlights my educational details and the certifications that I have done. So I had a keen interest in blockchain, so I just thought of doing it, and I was very fond of Linux as well. So I had done one certification for that, and in my college, they made all the students to undergo the certification for Oracle and Java.
Mhm.
So I have included that as well. And apart from that, like I just listed out the basic achievements and my interests. So for the achievements part, like I had received appreciation from my client that I used to work for, and so that I mentioned. And we used to work on one critical project which was very new to everyone,
Mhm.
and I and another teammate of mine, so we worked on that particular project. And since it was very new, like we used to face very much difficulties in that.
Mhm.
But again, then we had put in some extra effort, and we were able to complete it on time. So we received a huge appreciation for that from my manager on site and the client,
Oh,
everyone. So I've listed
very
that
nice.
as well.
This is too good. This if these kind of elements are there in the CV, definitely your CV will get selected.
Yeah. So apart from that, I had some uh, basic coding knowledge, and I was very fond of making basic programs, and I
Mhm.
used to troubleshoot all the issues right from my childhood still.
Okay.
So I also learned different languages. Like I had used Python
Mhm.
and Like I created one automation script where I used Python and Selenium to automate the Twitter and like just follow different people based on the keywords that I enter.
Mm,
So I just gave the basic keywords for blockchain and cryptocurrency, and the
mm,
script used to find people using that, and it used to follow those people's. So I had created one automation script for that, and so that I have listed out. And I had created one Python Telegram bot also. So it just as soon as we enter the particular cryptocurrency, then it just returns us the particular price for that coin, and it lists the market cap and all those things.
mhm.
So I have written that as an achievement also.
Right, right. No, no, definitely. That's a good achievement.
Yeah. And on the right side, I have mentioned my interests like I play football and do boxing, all this stuff. And various I have tried out various Linux distros, and I keep researching on new blockchain projects and investment opportunities. So that those things I have listed as interests. And yeah, that's basically it.
Looks good, really. Okay. So how many companies did you apply every day?
So I started looking for various companies in November, and at that point, I didn't get any offer from many companies. So I just went all in and applied for all the companies that I thought are feasible for me. So, but I didn't receive any calls or I didn't get any interview schedule. But in January, I got my first interview schedule in Quality Kiosk. So if we talk about applying for companies, then even I don't remember, but it may be around 25, 30 companies that I had applied for in November. But since January, I got interview scheduled for the 7 to 8 or 7 to 9 companies.
Okay,
And out of that, I got the offer from 5 companies.
okay, okay. Sounds good. Okay. So Hasmukh, you can stop sharing your screen.
Yeah, sure.
I think now we are almost done. Do you want to add any, point from your side for the people who are looking for job or what sort of preparation they should do? Otherwise, I